I'm not so much of a coloring book person. I hate having to color within the lines and build things slowly and progressively, especially with dry media. But last night, I had so much fun with my cheap watercolors on a cheap Amazon coloring book, the same one I'm holding now. It was low pressure and high reward. So this morning, I thought I would continue on the same path. Every morning, I spend about an hour and a half with my sketchbook. It is usually how I would like to start my day, with my coffee. My sketchbooks are low pressure. Sometimes I finish a painting or two, but often it's provisional. So I thought, what if I use coloring books the same way? I stop when my alarm rings and return to it later if I want to. If I want to return at all, I don't have to. Here, in this first part, I'm just picking and choosing some watercolor pencils. Last night, I painted a night. For this whimsical seascape, I wanted something light and airy. I'm mostly picking colors from my Faber-Castell watercolor pencil set. Upon swatching, I realized I had some leftover paint that would go with the palette. At this point, I'm not really thinking about a color scheme per se, more like something to get me started. I taped down the edge and lightly pressed the tape, and I noticed that the design actually extends beyond the tape. For now, I'll just ignore it and deal with it later. I chose a 1/4-inch synthetic angular shader, although I would like to say for no reason. I know I picked it up because the scene has lots of angular straight edges, and I don't want to carry a lot of water to the page and run into the heavy buckling I experienced with my natural hairbrush last night. This is just fuzz wash. I may or may not build on top of it. Ignore my leftover palette from last night. I forgot to remove it from the frame. As you can see, I'm turning the page so I can comfortably access all the nooks and corners. I'm starting slightly away from the edge and then slowly approaching it. I'm using my turquoise paint that I mixed with lots of water to make a nice light value. As it progresses, I turn the page around multiple times. I noticed there's a lamp in the design, but I'm not going to change it into a night. I have decided on day, and I'm going to stick with it. I softened some edges and went around all the areas where I want that color. That was as flat a color as I could get on that paper. I'm switching things up and focusing on the area under the board with a watercolor pencil now. I'm using Helio Blue Reddish 151. I'm alternating between different blues, 110 and 151, and filling in the spaces. I'm not too worried about the lines or boundaries as long as I'm not creeping into the water area. Occasionally, I'm wetting the pencil lines to get a sense of the value. I picked another turquoise pencil and went around filling in the water area. As I am approaching the horizon and the previous wash, I am unsure what to do, so I pause and reassess. I noticed a gap in the previous filled in area, so I proceed to fill that. Then I pick another blue and try to find a horizon line. At first, gesturally, I don't quite commit to it. I'm just checking it against a scale because it feels a bit awkward. I found the drawing is a bit confusing at this point, but my instinct was correct. It felt like an awkward design element. I went a bit higher on the horizon line to resolve that. It felt like a natural stopping point at this stage. On the other side of the page, I noted down the colors and swatches in case I revisit the area again. A bit of housekeeping, really. I'm again pausing and assessing. I picked up a yellow and went over lightly on the rooftops. I checked the time and I realized I still had some time left. If I want to continue, I have to choose more colors. So I'm reaching for the watercolor pencils again and picking up an orange and a burnt ochre. These will be my base colors for the buildings, but again, provisional. As it develops, it may change. So the application is very light. I wanted to bring in some normal color pencils at this stage. I'm picking and choosing similar color families from my mixed bag of different pencils. I call them everyday color pencils. I swatch them. I end the session once the buildings have a base coat and the turquoise water is blended with a wet brush. I also made a note of all the colors in case I return to it tomorrow. Also, my alarm rang.